Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peter Watches TV, where I watch all the TV shows, and then I come over here and I talk about them. So if you like TV shows and you like to talk about TV shows, why not come over here and hang out and talk about TV shows with me? Today, I want to talk about a new true crime documentary that just came out on Netflix, American Deadly Family. So many people have asked me to react to this documentary. I watched it the other night. I have actually, in the last couple days, I think I've watched 4 documentaries. So I will be covering them all on this channel in sometime this week, early next week. But first, I watched Southern Fried Lies on Peacock. All the documentaries that I watched were fantastic in one way or another. But I watched three true crime documentaries, and then I watched another documentary. So first I watched Southern Fried Lies on Peacock. Fantastic. I would highly recommend it. I believe it's an hour and 25 minutes, so it's not a series. It's just like, a standalone. And then I watched American Deadly Family, which is also a standalone. It's an hour and 42 minutes. And then that was, I don't know what night that was, but the next night I watched The Bakersfield 3, which is on Max, and that's a 3-part series, and it's fantastically done. It's fantastically done. Out of the 3, I would probably, if I were going to recommend them to you to watch, I would probably recommend The Bakersfield 3 first. I think it's the best out of the 3. And then I would recommend Southern Fried Lies on Peacock next, and this would actually be the 3rd one out of the 3. I thought this was a good documentary. I didn't think it was one of the best documentaries that I've ever seen, in all honesty. And so, I was interested in it. I was glad it wasn't a 6-part series. And in all honesty, it just kind of made me sad. It just really kind of made me sad. And then last night, I actually watched the Jasper Mall on Prime, which is about a year in the life of, like, a dying mall. It's kind of like this mall nostalgia. It was very sad documentary. But anyway, and I'll be covering that as well. But that's not a true crime documentary. So I have to be honest with you. I watched this documentary, and, I put up on my, so for those of you that do not know, I have an Instagram that goes along with this account. So if you want to follow it, it's linked below, or it's listed below, but it's just Peter Watches TV on Instagram. And so whatever shows I'm watching at night, I put up on my Instagram stories over there that I'm watching it. And when I put up that I was watching this, I started just getting bombarded with messages from people saying, oh my God, I want to know what you think. What do you think? And when I got done with it, I knew what I thought, but I was like, I don't really know how this is going to portray on camera. Like, I don't know what other people thought. So I started looking it up to see, people talking about it in threads and stuff like that. And it was very similar to what I thought about it. So then I was like, okay, the takeaway was the same. So let me get into the synopsis for you guys that do not know about this documentary. If you're going to watch it, I'm going to spoil things. So I'd probably go watch the documentary first and then come back over here and watch my reaction, and then you can let me know what you thought about it as well. So here's a synopsis from Netflix. It just came out, I think, last week. Like I said, it's an hour and 42 minutes. A disturbing 911 call and horrific crime scene raise questions about Jason Corbett's death. His family shares memories and hidden realities beneath their perfect-looking life. So here's the thing. On, Sister Wives, 1,000-Pound Sisters, Poly Family, things like that, Love After Lockup, sometimes I take notes. On true crime, I like to just sit and watch it. So I can tell you right now, there's probably going to be a lot of things that I miss. So feel free to, say, oh, what did you think about this? Or what did you think about that in the comment section below? Because there's probably going to be a lot of things that I missed on here. So I'm just going to kind of go in and give you a little synopsis of what it's about. So what it's about is this couple, and when it starts, you know that it's this husband and wife and their 2 kids. Now, I will tell you, I was very confused at first when I started watching this. I thought they were her kids. I did not realize, and I didn't know anything about this case prior to going in and watching this documentary. I was confused. I thought they were her kids. I did not think that they were his kids. And she apparently believes that they're her kids to her dying day. She believes they're her kids. She's in fact told people that she's birthed these children that she never gave birth to whatsoever. So the lies that came out of this woman's mouth are just like astronomical to me. But anyway, so I don't remember what order it goes in, but basically it's this 911 call, very calm 911 call from her father, who is, so it's about this woman named Molly Martins and her husband named Jason Corbett, and he is from Ireland originally. And now they live, I think in North Carolina is where it takes place. The Meadowlands, I think is what it's called. So anyway, so there's this 911 call, and the dispatcher takes, and it's from her father, who is a retired FBI agent that is very versed in how to do interviews with suspects and interviews with people. And he basically calls in that there's been an accident at his daughter's home where he and his wife are staying in the basement, and the kids are there as well. And apparently his wife slept through it, and the kids slept through it. They slept through it, all of it. And what it is that supposedly Jason Corbett, the husband, became very aggressive with Molly Martins, his daughter, and that she defended herself, and that now he's on the ground, and that he came in and he hit him with a baseball bat, and that he defended him, that he was defending his daughter because Jason was so aggressive in attacking his daughter, and so he and his daughter defended themselves against Jason Corbett, and now he's on the ground. The dispatcher asks, is he still breathing? I think he says, I don't know, or something like that. So then the police come out there. So like I said, I didn't know anything about this case. So as I'm watching this, all of a sudden they start showing these crime scene photos. I mean, and there's literally blood everywhere. I mean, I have watched enough serial killer documentaries, true crime documentaries of horrific murders. This was on par with that. It was gruesome. It was absolutely gruesome. And I mean, there was literally blood on the back of the door where it looked like he was trying to get out of the room. There was blood splatters all over the wall. There was like chunks knocked out of the wall. And what it was that she had been hitting him with this cinder block that the kids had been painting outside to put like around a garden that she had. I mean, it was a cinder block this big. It was a cinder block. A cinder block that there's no way I couldn't pick it up with one hand. She'd have to pick it up with two hands and do this, okay? And which is important, you have to think about, because if you're holding something with two hands and the father's holding a bat with two hands, you don't hold a bat with one hand, okay? How are you putting off an aggressor while you're holding something? You'd have to do that, okay? I mean, there's no way that they could possibly put off an aggressor while they are defending themselves with these weapons of violence as well, right? Not to mention that the police find out that once Jason Corbett is on the ground, they continue to hit him over and over and over and over again. To the point where the forensic specialist at one point says that when they were doing the examination at the coroner, that part of his skull came out. I mean, it was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. So apparently, I think it is North Carolina. I'm pretty sure of that. But apparently in North Carolina or whatever state this took place in, that you can defend yourself in your home. So what they were doing was completely legal. But you also have to stop as soon as the aggressor is down. Like as soon as you have it contained and you can get away, you need to get away. Like you can't continue to like just beat them until death. Like you have to like walk away once they're down. And there was proof that he was down. So they killed the man. Molly Martins and her father killed this man. They killed Jason Corbett, her husband, while the kids were asleep in the other room, and the grandmother was asleep downstairs. So then it goes and it tells the story of Molly Martins and Jason Corbett. And the story is, and this is where I was very confused about the kids, and then it comes in and talks about the kids, because there's two kids that at the time it happened, I believe they were 10 and 8. They might have been younger than that, but I believe they were 10 and 8 when it happened. And so, and the kids are the saddest part of the story. I mean, it's all framed around them. It starts off with showing them get into like this SUV, and you can tell they're going to court or something like that. And at that time, I believe she's 17 and he's 19. And you don't really know what they're going to court for. But this is like multiple court trials. This is like multiple interviews. I mean, these kids have been totally put through it. I feel so bad for these kids. I mean, the kids are really the focal point of the story. It's so sad. I mean, what happened to him is obviously so sad, but these kids have just been put through it. So the story is that he was married before to this woman, and they had these two kids together, and that she passed away from an asthma attack, which is later confirmed by her sister that was in the home that night and saw her with the inhaler, okay? Which it also comes out later that her father supposedly told the FBI agent father that he believed that Jason Corbett killed his daughter, which the father at the very end of the show puts out a statement and says, I never said that. I never had a conversation with the man. So the FBI agent was absolutely lying. The fact that these people are not sitting in prison for the rest of their life is just baffling to me. It's just absolutely bad. I mean, he just absolutely lied and said, oh, I talked to his previous wife's father, his previous father-in-law, And he said, oh, I believe that Jason killed my daughter. And the father says, I never said, on his deathbed, signs a statement and says, I never said that. That we never even talked about my daughter. And the mother and the sister are sitting there confirming this. And the sister's like, I was in the house the night that she passed away. Jason did everything he could possibly do to keep her alive. And yet the defense and the father and Molly Martins suggest that he killed his previous wife. I mean, at the expense of you've already traumatized these kids, okay? And I understand the need to defend yourself so you don't go to prison, but if you care about these kids so much, to insinuate, okay, that their father killed their mother, and they're going to have to live with that for the rest of their life, and that's your defense of getting out of a situation where you beat this man so brutally with a cinder block and a baseball bat that he died. You are willing to do that to these children that you claim to be their mommy. It is so sick to me, okay? So Jason's living in Ireland, and he is a single father, and he's raising these kids. And so he decides to hire an au pair. And so Molly Martins comes over because she's just gotten out of this disastrous relationship. So she comes over and she becomes the au pair. And, you know, it's interesting, like, they don't go in and talk a lot about the intentions and things like that. But, like, I kind of got from how they showed things that the intentions right away was that she was going to marry this man and these were going to be her kids. That's kind of how I got it. So very quickly they develop this relationship, this romantic bond. Is how they suggest. And then they decide that they're going to come back to the United States and all this kind of stuff. So they come back here and then the wedding happens here. And so his sister is a huge part of the show because his sister and his brother-in-law are the ones that get guardianship over the kids at the end. And it becomes this huge custody thing. And so the sister is interviewed highly through it. And she tells the story about when she came to the wedding that the bridesmaid, who had known Molly Martin her entire life, and they talk about how she's lied on, I mean, they went through this whole thing about how she had lied about relationships, and she had lied about school, and all this stuff she's lied about, right? That she was getting ready to give, think about this, okay? The maid of honor, the best friend of this woman, is getting ready to give a speech at the wedding reception, okay? And it's talking to his sister and said, I'm going to talk about how nice it is that, she was their godmother and that she knew them, like she knew his wife previously. And the sister's looking at her like, what are you talking about? Like, she was their au pair. She's completely lied about it. In this neighborhood group of women, many of which later come to support her and character witnesses, she says to them, like, she gave birth to the daughter. She never gave birth to this daughter. She says all these things that are absolutely 100% not true. I mean, just complete lies. She's lied from the very beginning. At her wedding, she lied to her maid of honor about how she knew this man, and how she knew these kids to develop these relationships. It's so, listen, I don't know about the diagnoses of this, but it's so sick and so beyond that I don't even understand it. I don't even understand it. So then they come to the United States, and anyway, Jason continues to threaten to want to go back to Ireland, and he's just like, she is problematic, and they've got a lot of marital issues, and so he wants to go back to Ireland. The thing is that she wants to adopt the kids, okay? But if she adopts the kids in the course of a divorce or separation, there is a great possibility that those kids will go with her. So he's never willing to allow her to adopt the kids. The focal point has always been the kids, for her to get these kids. So he won't sign it. And even though it shows that he was trying to work towards this adoption, so he does not want her to adopt the kids because he's afraid, well, if we get separated or divorced, she could get my kids. She could get me and my wife's kids. And I don't want that to happen. So this is where he's getting ready to possibly go back and go back to Ireland and whatever, when this whole situation happens. Now, the prosecutor suggests that there's a possibility that she contrived this whole situation, that she had her mom and dad come stay there, that she got Jason very heated that night so that he would almost appear aggressive so that she had to defend herself, okay? At this point, what we know now is that she has set up tape recorders that go off all over the house. He got one in his car, under the kitchen table, and so they play two clips of how abusive he is, okay? And listen, do I think he was assertive in the situation? Absolutely. Do I think he was direct and seemed like he was worn out after probably a long day of work, and I'm not making excuses? 100%. But they have this expert witness that is like, oh, that's 100%, domestic DV. That's 100% indicative of that. And I'm like, have you ever been in a relationship before? I mean, I've had several, and I can tell you arguments that I've had both ways where maybe one of us wasn't in the wrong. Like, the way she presents on camera and the way that she is like, and this is where I didn't want to make this video because I'm like, well, I don't know. Maybe she truly was a victim of this, and then I feel horrible for her. But it's not consistent with what they show. There's like no character weaknesses. I mean, in fact, before she comes out with the taping, they say that they were at a Christmas party or something, or some kind of party in the neighborhood, and she is belittling him, and she's making fun of him, and talking about, like, what a little man he is, and all this kind of stuff, when he leaves the party and goes home. You know, it's like, I don't know. Like, I've had a lot of friends of mine in situations like that, and that's not consistent with how they would have acted. And so, I don't know, like, for me, it doesn't fit. And then the prosecutor's also like, and I'm just telling you how I saw watching it, okay? I do not know these people's lives. I do not know what's going on. But the prosecutor suggests that she can highly edit the tapes to come across any way that she wants them to. So then this whole thing goes down, and she has the kids. You know, she gets interviewed. Her dad gets interviewed by the police. They release them. And then she's got the kids at home. Well, the sister and the brother-in-law are listed as the godparents. So basically, if Jason's gone, they're the ones that are the guardians of the parents. Molly Martins won't let her have the kids. She won't let them have any contact with the kids. Nothing. She can't even be part of planning the funeral for her brother. So, I mean, the whole thing is so sad. And then the judge finally decides that the kids can go back to Ireland. I think at this point, the dad and her dad and Molly Martins and her FBI dad are arrested and suspected. And then the kids go back to Ireland. No, they're not arrested at that time because they're like crying. They don't want to leave Molly. The younger daughter doesn't want to leave Molly. The daughter doesn't want to leave Molly because that's all she knows as a mother figure in her life. This is why it's so sad for these kids. So then they go back to Ireland, okay? And then Molly's like, I'm their mommy and all this kind of stuff. At one point, her dad says something. I thought this was such an interesting statement. He says in there, now that they're in Ireland, see, the whole thing has been that everybody's insinuated that Molly Martins has brainwashed these kids. Well, she has brainwashed these kids. She's told everybody in the neighborhood that she gave birth to the daughter. She's told her friends that she was the godparent to these kids, and that she grew up, she was friends with their mother when the mother was younger, which there's no truth to any of this. So I don't know where the brainwashing's coming from the brother and the sister, but like, it's not on the side of his family or his friends at all that are just trying to do the best that they possibly can for these kids. But at one point, the FBI agent dad says, well, how will they remember the birthday parties that she threw them? How will they remember how they taught her to swim? How did they remember the meals that she made for them? And I don't know why in this moment that my mind flashed back to Mommy Dearest. Have you ever seen the movie Mommy Dearest about Joan Crawford? Okay. The birthday party where Christina Crawford was only allowed to keep one present. You know, she swims with her, teaches her to swim, and she beats her in a race, you know, and makes fun of her for losing. How they'll remember the meals. I don't think if you've ever seen Mommy Dearest, she'll ever forget where that little girl sits at the dining room table eating that liver. So just because she threw them birthday parties, taught them to swim, and made them meals does not make her a good mother at all. The kids at one point are interviewed by this clinical psychologist or whatever at this like children's center, and the kids give these interviews. Anybody watching these interviews, I mean, the son at the time is 10 years old and says that his daddy was physically, and he uses the words physically and verbally abusive to my mommy. Okay, those are not words that a 10-year-old uses. The prosecutor says that, everybody says that. Well, later, the son comes out and retracts his statement, okay? And so they don't ever allow, so they don't, in the first trial, they don't allow his testimony and his sister's testimony to be part of the trial. So Molly Martins and her father are convicted. Well, then later, in the appeals process, she gets this huge attorney that's going to defend her now, okay? Which is interesting to me because at one point, the attorney says, I know she didn't do it. And I'm like, well, if she didn't do it, who did it? Because you're the defense attorney for her and her father. So if she didn't do it, who did it? Her handprints are on the cinder block, okay? She said she took the cinder block. Who did it? There were 2 people in that room. There were 3 people in that room. One of them's dead. The other one had a bat and the other one had a cinder block. How an attorney, the attorneys absolutely disgusted me in this true crime documentary, okay? You've got 2 kids out there. Why is it in these true crime documentaries, the attorneys after the case is filed never come out and say, yeah, I thought she was crazy. Yeah, I thought she did it from the very beginning. They never say that. They stick by their story till the very bitter end. Okay, I understand that you're an attorney and you got client privilege and things like that. But you don't have to be on no TV show saying I don't believe she did it. You don't have. Nobody is forcing you to be on a TV show saying that. Okay, you are coming out and saying that she didn't do this. They show the clip. The attorney says there's no way she could have done this. What do you mean there's no way she could have done this? Did anybody else catch that? What do you mean there's no way she could have done this? She admitted to doing it. She literally admitted to beating her husband with a cinder block. I can't even imagine getting hit on the shoulder one time lightly with a cinder block. Literally getting hit in the head 20 times. I mean, to the point where your skull is coming out. What do you mean she couldn't have done it? She did it. She admitted to doing it. The rest of it is all the reasons why she did it. There's no question that they did it. There's no question that they beat this man to death. That is not the question of the documentary, okay? That is not the questions of the attorneys. The question is, what is the situation that led them to doing this? When the attorney said that, I was like, what world are we living in right now where you literally have an educated, highly respected attorney getting in a true crime documentary, okay, ruining the reputation of this man, his children, and his family, saying there's no way she could have done it, when you know she beat him to a pulp with a cinder block. I'm like, seriously? So then the appeals process happens, and they're real proud of themselves because they get the kids' testimony in there. The kids at 10 and 8, okay? Well, when the son comes out and retracts his statement, what he says is that their mother convinced them to make those statements. Well, you know that because the statements they make are very adult statements. He comes out and he says, my dad never hit Molly. I never saw him hit Molly. The other thing you notice is, as the kids age, they don't call her mom anymore. They start calling her Molly. I noticed it first with the daughter. These kids have been through hell and back. I feel so bad for them. They just need fucking closure and the son even says it. Like, he's like, I just want this behind me. I just want to move on. So they go through the second trial, and so the kids are going to come and testify, okay? And the kids are like, this is our moment. Like, let me tell my story. Put me on that stand and let me tell the true story of who this woman is, right? Well, the father and the daughter take a plea deal. Molly and her father take a plea deal, right? And he takes it and pleads guilty. She takes it and she does, like, consents to it, which basically means she's not pleading guilty, but no contest. She's not contesting the plea, but she says in there, I would have gone to court trial all day long to tell my truth, but I didn't want my dad to sit in prison for the rest of his life. Okay, well, maybe something your father should have thought about before he beat the shit out of this man with a baseball bat, okay? You know, there was other stuff that came out that the grandmother was really worried about these kids, and so she wrote the phone number on the bottom of this thing in their bedroom. Well, that could have all been staged. She could have done that because they knew that they were going to do. Who knows? This father, an FBI agent, is willing to get on camera and lie about a man talking about his dead daughter. What lengths are these parents willing to do to keep their crazy-ass daughter out of prison? Who knows? They won't even admit. I would respect this man so much, this father, if he would say, what we did was horrific. What we did was wrong. They don't even make any victim statements to the kids. They don't even say, like, I am so sorry. This father never once. He says, I don't regret what I did. You don't regret that you took these kids away from any kind of parent that they knew, that you killed their father, that you ruined the reputation of their mother, that you ruined the reputation of their grandfather. You don't care about any of that. You have no regrets, the father says, okay? I would have more respect for him if he said, what we did was necessary, but yeah, I regret it. I regret taking the life. I regret beating somebody like that. I wish I never had to do it. I wish I never had to ruin these kids' childhood and come in the way of that. It was necessary in that moment, but of course I regret it. I live with that remorse every single day. How could he not feel that? So of course he's not going to get in video and say, yeah, my daughter is a complete crazy nut job. He's not going to say that when it's proven. I mean, they don't even show half the evidence that they have. So at the end, they take this plea deal, and with all the time served, so they're out now, right? And then the kids, they do these victim impact statements at the end for the sentencing, which they get sentenced to something like, I don't know, it's like they're out in like 6 months or something like that. But to hear these kids' statements, it broke me. It just absolutely broke me. The story was so sad. It was so sad. And then the mother at the end, not the mother, Molly Martins, who thinks she's the mother, she's like, they'll always be my mommy. She says, I'll always be their mommy. Baby, you are not their mommy, okay? You didn't give birth to these kids. You beat their father to death. They don't want anything to do with you. They don't acknowledge you as their mommy. You know, at one point, this was so sad to me. Because, you know, you're talking about kids, 8 and 10 years old, 10 and 12 years old, 12 and 14 years old as they're growing up through this, right? They don't know what's going on, okay? They're messed up in the head about all this stuff. So the son reaches out to Molly and leaves her a voicemail when he's not supposed to have any contact with her, okay? So you have to imagine, this kid, like, when his aunt and uncle are out of the house, or he's alone, or he's in the middle of the night, he goes down and he calls her on the phone, and he knows he shouldn't, you know? And he's like 12 at the time. This breaks my heart for this kid. And he says this was the turning point for him when he started seeing the truth. And he leaves this message for Molly, and they play the message, and the message is like, Mom, I miss you, and like, please call me back, and whatever. She sends it to the press to prove that she's their mommy. That's what she does with it. And then he's like, that's the moment for me that I realized that she's out for herself. Like, I don't want anything to do with her anymore, you know? It was just, I was blown away. I was blown away by this documentary. I thought it was sick and disgusting. You know, and at first I was worried because I was kind of like, you know, like, I don't know if I say this, they killed this man. They killed this man. And I'm not saying that there are not situations where the abuse is so horrible, but I did not feel that it was shown with all the court evidence and everything they had and the 2 taped recordings. She had tape recorders all over the house. They showed 2. The most damaging evidence that they had on all the taped recordings that she was taping for months. She had 2, they played, I think 1 or 2 recordings, and those recordings were not damaging hardly at all. What she said on camera was more damaging than anything that was in, I don't know. So, I don't know. The whole thing just made me sad. I will be really, really interested to hear what you have to say. Listen, if you have a different point of view, I would love to hear it, because I feel like I don't know what to think. Like, I kind of need to be convinced otherwise. I don't know if you agree with me or disagree with me. Please let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your thoughts further. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.